Welcome back to the Random Horror Show. I am your horror hostess, Keisha Lacey, coming straight out of the Iron Pine Curtain of East Texas. And also, we have a wonderful guest on the Random Horror Show with our Random Horror Chit Chat. Our guest is Ivotres Littles. She is the Oprah of Horror. She is the creator of horror movies and beyond. She's also like part of Shudderary. She's a co-producer of Deliverus Films. She is an amazing powerhouse, especially in the horror community. She is a wonderful, wonderful person. Very deeply inspired, very like just deep hearted. She has a lot of heart and a lot of passion. You will hear how she got started in horror, and especially reviewing movies. Not only just horror, but like science fiction as well. And here we are with my guest for a random horror chat with the Oprah of Horror, Ivotres Littles.
Welcome to the Random Horror Show. I am your horror hostess, Keisha Lacey, coming straight out of the Iron Pine Curtain, better known as East Texas. And of course, here at the Random Horror Show, we'll be silly, goofy, and just being random, just commentating, just being silly, and just all over the place. But we come back to the main point in horror, science fiction, fantasy, cult classics, and the obscure in movies, television shows, and books. And thank you all for joining me with tonight's episode. And I have a special guest right here. She is the queen of horror, and not only that, the Oprah of horror also. She is Ivotres Little. I'm sorry, Ivotres Littles. Sorry about that. Girl, I just like was sitting there pronouncing girl. I just keep on going. Sorry about I butchering your name, girl. I was like sitting there going like that. Ivotres Littles. I'm sorry I made you laugh. Then got out of character, but that's okay. We just random like that with our horror chat episode. And she is the creator and the host of Movies and Beyond. You can find her like on her website, Instagram, TikTok. She talks about horror. She goes in deep about horror films. She love her some science fiction horror, just the same as I. And of course, take it away, Miss Littles, the Oprah of horror.
Well,
Thank you
hello,
for joining
everybody.
me. Oh, we just having giggles right here. Love this. I
Oh,
love it.
it's okay. I giggle all the time. You got to giggle.
You do. You do. I think I'm a little nervous because it's like you're just a big thing, and I'm just like,
What?
wow, like
Well,
stars in my eyes and stuff. Because
I'm
you,
not a big thing.
yeah, yeah, you really are. You really are. You really are. But yeah, just go on and introduce yourself. Let me
Well,
cut up.
hello. I am Ivotre Littles. I have a show called Horror Movies and Beyond. I interview a lot of people. It can range from independent filmmakers to major stars. Also, I do movie reviews, but not as much as interviews because I really do love interviewing people about their films because you always find out something more than what is being, presented in the film. So that's always exciting. So yeah.
That is exciting. And I like just it's like I just fell in love with you because she was on Evolve Live with Tyrone. And this is I mean, because I'm pretty new into the horror community myself, and I have a big passion and love for her horror as it is anyways. And it was like you and Tyrone was just having church on there. And I was like, wow, I was so fascinated with you. And I love Tyrone, how he just brings a lot of us into into this realm of horror, finding each other, and he found me too.
Hmm.
And you have like the most like creative, wonderful, um, you know, not only just the website, but like what you do, particularly interviewing filmmakers, independent, big time actors. You do film reviews, and I think that's like something of what like a lot of like horror lovers like is the film reviews, but then you get more deeper with the psychology um, of the film, how it affects the characters, the underlying stories, um, even from like the directors of why they, or writers of how they wrote this story. I remember you was talking about you had on the live. I think he was talking about Child's Play, and you
Hmm.
interviewed the guy um, that created Child's Play, directed and everything else. And there was like this misconception about the doll that they used, the inspiration behind that.
Hmm.
Some people say like, oh, it's from such and such, but really, from what I remember about Child's Play is from this toy long ago called My Buddy, and then it came
Hmm.
out with his sister.
Hmm.
And I found it very fascinating that you talk to the people behind the horror movies, the horror films, the writers, the actors, and everything else. And how did you like find that unique niche of doing that and just moving on ahead? It's like you just went with it and just took off running with it. How did you find that inspiration behind um, horror movies and beyond?
Well, it all started with the blog that I created in the beginning. And
Mm-hmm.
that started when an ex friend of mine, uh, boyfriend, or whatever you want to call, uh, he was into comic books and video games and stuff like that. And we went to, it was Kamikaze at the time, or maybe
Mhm,
WonderCon, but it was one of them out here. And I was just walking around and looking around, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. I didn't even think about interviewing anybody.
mhm,
So it was just, I was fascinated that it was this world I knew nothing about. And I had a lot of fun, and as I was walking around I came across Full Moon Features,
mhm,
and I knew who they were. And as I got closer, I was looking at all the old school DVDs from way back when I used to watch horror as a young girl.
mhm,
And I saw the dolls, the Puppet Master from the movie The Puppet Master.
mhm,
And I was like, holy crap, look at this. And as I was looking at him, I was talking to I think it was a young, I'm not unsure if it was a woman or a man, and I was just talking about the dolls and stuff. And I was like, man, I would really like to talk to the guy who created them, just to get some insight of the structure and why the dolls look like that.
mhm,
And he was like, oh really? And I was like, yeah. He said, sure, let me get him for you. And I was like, what? And he was like, Charles Band. And I was like, Charles Band, because he did dolls, he did Reanimator. He was
mhm,
the producer, creator of a lot of that stuff. And
mhm,
and he walked over, and I was just like, okay, this is my shot. And I did. And I talked to him about the dolls. He kind of gave me some insight on the dolls, and we just kept talking and talking and talking. And I ended up signing up for one of his subscriptions. But He liked me so much, he gave me a plush doll of Blade, one of the puppet masters, and I still have that doll. And that's a constant reminder of where it started, the beginning of me interviewing. And then I created a blog, and called it Nerdtastic Girl,
Mhm.
Nerdtastic Girl, because I was into to everything. It wasn't specific for horror yet, even though
Mhm.
horror is most of my life. It just wasn't specific because I was watching Marvel, DC. I was reading
Mhm.
a little bit of the comics and stuff like that. So then I started interviewing,
Mhm.
and creating that blog. It took me about 3 months to figure out what I was going to do and how it's going to look. And then I went to, I think it was Kamikaze again,
Mhm.
and I just walked up to people to
Nice.
interview, and I was so scared because I was this nobody. I'm just starting. It
Mhm.
didn't work because of my nerves. I didn't walk up to many, and I started
Mhm.
reaching out to some people that I knew. This one band called the Flux Capacitors, who was Back to the Future base, and then
Yeah.
Robin Shelby, who was the Slimer from Ghostbusters, because I was a huge Ghostbusters fan. So, and then I went to Real Guys, who is this group that dressed up like The Walking Dead because I started being into The Walking Dead. So it was a lot going on. And from then on, that's how it started. And even though I was writing, I
Mhm.
hated it. I hated writing because it was always a second challenge for me. It was always really, really hard because I had a speech problem growing up due to
Mhm.
some family abuse. And so
Wow.
it was just very hard for me to communicate all the time. It really took a lot out of me. And that
Mhm.
transition to video came years later,
Mhm.
but it was the start of getting into stuff and getting press passes, and I focused on horror because it felt more natural to talk about horror,
Mhm.
and I was trying to figure out a name for it, how I wanted to do it, and I came up with Horror Movies and Beyond, and I went to Monsterpalooza and Midsummer Screen. I started interviewing guests there, and that's when I walked up to Tom Holland and
Mhm.
Alex Vincent and Tony Todd,
Oh my
and
god.
so I started. I just walked up to him, and Michael Gross from Tremors, and it
Yes.
was I was extremely scared because this was a different avenue,
Mhm.
um, but I knew I wanted to do more video, but
Mhm.
that was still the blog. I just couldn't figure it out, and it was just a lot of process, a lot of failing, a lot of figuring out, and I went to then finally I transitioned to video.
Mhm.
I started doing lives on Facebook,
Mhm.
and that was a challenge because now people could look at me. People were watching me, and I hated the way I look. I hated the way I look. I was so self-conscious about the way I look and the way I smiled, and it was really really my heart, the anxiety kicked in. It was
Mhm.
terrible, but I knew I wanted to do it, and I just kept doing it and kept doing it. And where I make the flying leap
Mhm.
was when I did interview the Kyoto brothers,
Mhm.
and 2 years prior, and then John Massari, who is the composer of the Killer Clowns from Outer Space movie, his wife came across my blog. I interviewed him. And then when I went to Monsterpalooza, he introduced me to Chelsea and James from Dead Meat.
Oh my god.
Months later, she asked me if I wanted to be on her show, and I freaked. And then the COVID hit.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, you just yeah,
So,
oh God. Oh
so
Rona, ain't Rona in the street, ain't
yeah,
Rona.
so yeah, and so when COVID hit, it
Mm-hmm.
was just no one was doing anything. And then finally, months later, she asked me about being on her show. And I knew who Dead Meat was. I mean, he has millions of
Mm-hmm.
followers. He's hundred thousands of followers on all his other channels. I mean, him
Mm-hmm.
and her was just this team, and was terrified. But I said, okay. And weeks before, it seemed like a long story, but
No, it's not.
it's almost there. But weeks before, I knew, because they had such a large following, I
Mm-hmm.
knew when people see me, that's what they'll see from then on. So it was
Mm-hmm.
pretty tough because I did like sexy things, and I kind of was into more of the sex appeal when I was starting more, you know.
Yeah.
But that was mostly on the side. That was the image. But I knew, I was like, no, I don't want to do that permanently. One, is expensive. And two, I was so uncomfortable with myself. I just knew that wasn't something that I wanted to do and have that look permanently.
Mm-hmm.
So I started looking at Chelsea. I started looking at her Instagram and just her personality, and see how she was, clothes she was wearing, her style.
Mm-hmm.
And they had millions of followers. So I was like, you know what? I just like to be comfortable, and she liked to be comfortable. And I was like,
Right.
I'm not finna go the extra mile for something I'm not comfortable with that image. And so
Right.
I just wore uh, a horror T-shirt, some jeans,
Mm-hmm.
and I was on their podcast, and it just went from there.
You just put like the biggest Kool-Aid smile on my face. You just did the damn thing right there. And wow, I'm like, I'm totally speechless. And I mean, and you really like there was some things that you said, you had like this you know, uh speech issue,
Mhm.
and I stutter. And I had the same thing too with the speech because I stuttered a lot. Um and I still stutter, but I just like, you know what? It's That's just me. That's just me.
Mhm.
Um but for you to go out there and of course, was you with your ex, the woochie do that dude, that dude. It just started like from there, and it just kept snowballing and growing and growing, and you just had like you know, uh, these things that you had to overcome, you know, uh, you know, how you look at yourself and everything else, like you're going to be on camera, you just putting yourself out there, knowing that your anxiety is like way up there, you talking to big people, Chelsea and James Sinise of like Dead Meat, and then Tony Todd and Tom Holland and Alex and everything. Yeah, I like them in the movie. What was that? With Brad Dourif's daughter was in it. And when he came back, and then he was just waiting. Andy was waiting on Chucky that day. I was like, boy, I fell out laughing right there. But just basically just asking the question about with the puppet master dolls and how they're created, and then you brought the guy in to talk to you, and how the whole process was. I mean, that is a huge leap right there. You was making small steps for yourself. I mean, like, shoot, and look where you at right now. Look where you at now, just by doing that. And then you starting off with a blog. You know, it was the same thing. I started off with a blog. It was called The Country with Soul Girl or something like that. Just telling. things about like what I do in Texas, being eccentric, blah 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 blah, and all that stuff. And then something said to me like, "Why don't you just write a story?" I was like, "What kind of story?" So I took a story that happened in real life, and I was married, been divorced, and I created this story. It had my ex-husband in it, and I called him Lucifer. And our son, right lung was collapsed, and he had to be rushed to Dallas. It was very scary because I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm going to lose my son. And he came up there at the time. It was his girlfriend. Now it's his second wife, and he just acted damn fool. Like, this is not about you. This is our son. He's about to lose his right lung, and he's on the verge of dying. And my son got better. He was like around three or four, I think about four around the time. And it was just my son and I, because we was transported by the ambulance. It was like 2 hour drive from where I'm at to Dallas. And he got better. And so his dad and his now his my son's stepmom, we were leaving out of Dallas. I didn't have nobody to come get me. And it was a horrible drive. And my son was both of them like, I don't have time for this. He went to sleep. Like, I don't have time for these fools. And so I'm back in the back seat, and my eyes are just like, just bugged and just being quiet like a child. And so
Mhm.
I turned that into a little bit of a story with that experience. And I got to thinking, I said, you know what? Let me write about my favorite horror movies. Let me start off with that. And it started, I wrote like a big long list. And it's things that what we did, years back. And you mentioned like how much, like the failures and everything else. That's just how we learn. And it's the same, way how people like will try something, you make your mistake, you learn from it, or you failed at this and everything, but you learn from it and you
Mhm.
won't make the mistake again. And that's real talk right there. And I'm looking at your website, and it's a beautiful website. It really is. Um, I'm just like, wow. And I'm gonna say this to you, girl. You are freaking beautiful. Like, you have a gorgeous smile. Girl, your eyebrows are on point. I'm gonna tell you, your eyebrows are on point. Cause I do brows myself, hooking ladies up with a natural brow look.
Mhm.
And I noticed your brows. I'm like, damn, she got some nice ass brows. I'm like, who is her brow lady? Her brow lady, it needs to be
I
given
am
a
the
hug.
brow lady. I do my own brows.
Baby, I'm gonna tell you this right now.
It's very simple. It's only three things. No, one, two, let me see. One, two, four things I use to do that.
I'm gonna say it like this. I'm looking at the way you are definitely on point with knowing your brow shape. Look at me. I'm talking about brows. You're definitely, and I cannot turn that off, because if you've been doing that for 15 years, you can't turn it off. But you are definitely on point with like the whole eye shape, from the natural arch in your brow to the beginning and the end of like the brows, also even the top of the brow. And I'm just like, and your structure, your eye structure, your ocular structure around is beautiful. You have it just, oh my gosh, I am jelly, girl. They look so good. And um the one thing that you mentioned is about, you had like that sexy look. And you looked at Chelsea Hathaway. She was dressed and everything else. um always seen like on you, not YouTube, but more on Instagram, how you have some ladies that are in horror, or talk about horror, review movies and stuff like that.
Hmm.
It's some of them. I'm not like sitting there like, oh, they shouldn't be doing this. They always have like some kind of little sexy outfit or whatever like that. Now I
Mm-hmm.
did one or two like little trap filters and stuff, little thirst trap pictures. But other than that, I usually keep it sexy but classy, but more like a conservative, classy, look. Because like you said, if you continue on with like this same image, it's gonna be permanent.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that like, when I look at them, I'm like, when if I'm like a guy, I'll be like, yeah, she's hot, but I'm not gonna take her seriously.
Mm.
Because like you know how it is, image is everything, especially when you're on social media. And then you're talking about horror, and then somebody's like, oh, okay, they're not going to pay attention of what you producing as a content creator,
Mm-hmm.
doing the film reviews, and even you doing interviews with so many amazing people in the industry, is that you present yourself the way how you are. Like I said, you are very beautiful and everything. Eyebrows on point, beautiful smile. Could not tell that you had some type of speech issue when you was a child and everything. And when you mention, due to like child abuse, we're not going to talk, like go into it, but
Mm-hmm.
I feel you on that too. And that's just, and it does traumatize us as children, you know with depression, because I know I had depression a lot when I was a kid. um I know everybody has heard this like me, so I'm about the home invasion story that I had that got me into horror, watching horror movies and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I like definitely like feel you so much of like what you just said. And like I said, you put a big old Kool-Aid smile on my face.
You're welcome. I mean,
You're
it's
phenomenal.
even to this day, I mean, it's
Hmm.
still a challenge because
Hmm.
what people see and what is off camera
Hmm.
don't match. And what I mean by that is that the smiles and the having a good time and all this stuff, people see
Hmm.
that's what's being sold.
Hmm.
But when the cameras go off and the makeup comes off and you
Hmm.
realize that the life that you want is temporary, and you're
Hmm.
trying your hardest to make it a permanent way of life. And that's what I'm doing, because everything I do, it comes out of my pocket, whatever I could scrounge up, and everything. No one helps me. I'm a one woman show, and I tell people that all the time. I had someone thinking I had a couple of people with me, and I was like, no. And it was like, well, I mean, you have this website, you have the look of things, and like, no. I mean, I've had someone make up, a sign for me,
Hmm.
or something like that. But when it comes to running things and reaching out to people, it's all me. I did that website by myself, and I'm very proud of it, because it took a while because I was trying to figure out how I wanted to look. And everything that you see does not look feminine. I don't want anything I have to look feminine. I want to
Hmm.
look like you don't know who's running it.
Right.
That was my number one thing when I started the horror. The
Hmm.
Nerdtastic girl, you could kind of tell it was a little, a girl doing it. But that was number one on my list. I wanted to
Hmm.
make it as ambiguous as
Hmm.
possible with my style. I love horror, all the elements of it, not just a movie, not just
Right.
a director, not just an actor. I love
Hmm.
where the story come from. If it was folklore, if it was, some drawings on a cave, it was, the Salem witch trials, the actual Salem witch
Hmm.
trials. If there were voodoo involved,
Hmm.
like I love those stories. They scare the hell out of me, but that's where horror come from. Real
Mm-hmm.
stories about real people, about their real lives. And then over time, it changes so it can fit the big screen. But other than that, I mean, it came from somewhere. All these exorcism horror movies, it came from the church. You know what I'm saying? All these slavery horror movies came from the South, most of them, Haiti. I mean, that stuff is real.
Mm-hmm.
Africa, it's real, but those stories are very boring at a certain point. So they have to twist and turn and make the monster extra scary, but where it come from, the source is very real. And but horror movies and beyond can't go to that part of the element because those are two separate entities, horror
Mm-hmm.
movies and real life scary stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They're inspiration for the movies, but they're two separate entities. So that is why I came up with Preternatural Mysteries, that talks about the paranormal, the supernatural, and the unexplained. So I have two things going on right now. It's been a year. I have not done Preternatural Mysteries. That will start up next year.
Mm-hmm.
With my partner, hopefully. If not, if she can't do it, it'll just be me. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I came up with that because that stuff scares the hell out of me more than any horror movie I've ever seen, except besides Candyman. Candyman really got me when I was a kid, but um I mean, there's The Conjuring. Yes, The Conjuring is scary, and they have the Annabelle. But I want to look at the real Annabelle. Let's look at that
Right.
Raggedy Ann doll. I mean,
Yes.
the story behind the real doll. I think the real doll, the way it looked, is scarier than the doll that they have in the movie. But that's just me. But the story behind that, the story behind the haunted chest, there's a story about a haunted painting, there's a story about a haunted Japanese doll that grows teeth and hair. Like that right there is scary, but it's still horror. Horror is an English term. Macabre and all that stuff came from way out, in another country. But here, English in United States, horror was adopted. So, I mean, in England and UK and stuff like that, they have Jack the Ripper. I find that the most interesting story that I've ever read. How can one man do all that terrible stuff? And I have some theories. But anyway, but you see what I'm saying? Like those are two separate entities. And so I created two separate shows. Um and that takes a lot of work because when when you're doing preternatural mysteries, the unexplained stuff, the truth has to be the truth. You can't
Mm-hmm.
make that stuff up. You got to research. You got to have statistics. You got to have that stuff because it's real. Horror movies, you're just saying, I like this movie and this is why. This is why I don't. This is why. You're talking about a movie. Now, if you
Mm-hmm.
want to get deeper into the movie, about the history and the story about it, that is the separate entity of preternatural mysteries. But a lot of people just do it because it's just easier to talk about something very tiny that they've learned about the film that they're reviewing. But
Mm-hmm.
to go deeper, that's why I have Preternatural Mysteries, where it's completely separate. And then I bring in a horror movie. But we're talking about that ghost that lives in a lake or a monster or something. That is the main part. So horror is everything and everyone and everywhere. So yeah.
And real life, I agree to all of that. And real life can be horror, even in our personal lives or with a friend.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody like you work with, everybody have some horror story that has happened, within
Mhm.
their life. Even they went through some type of, you have Anne Rice, okay? Whenever
Mhm.
she did interview with the vampire, okay, why did that come up? Guess what? She had her daughter who passed away. She had a rare blood disease. And then
Mhm.
Anne Rice was had to be hospitalized herself. She got really sick. And she said that when she was in the hospital, it just she couldn't hear it what the people were saying, but she said it felt very alien. When you talking about the supernatural, girl, I'm gonna tell you this: there is a bunch of supernatural uh, stuff down here. Um, if you okay, I know you remember the Tulsa massacre.
Yeah.
Um,
I
okay,
am familiar with it.
okay. Well, before the Tulsa massacre happened, there's a place that is about 45 to 55 minutes away from me, and it's called Slocum, Texas. It is located in between Palestine and Elkhart, Texas.
Mhm.
It's a year before excuse me, the Tulsa massacre happened. They came in, burned down all the very rich, the neighborhoods, the stores, and everything else. Same kind of like it's like a rosewood. It's all of that. It's horrific, terrifying. It was crazy. There was a few survivors from that Slocum massacre. We did not know that history until about 5 years ago, because the university that I went to does research, meta research, and everything else. This guy I went on a date with, he was telling me, but he didn't get no play anyways. But I appreciate his information. but but when we heard that, we're like, oh my goodness. But my dad has a friend and he drives trucks. And every trucker who has checked the salt water levels like on close to that property where the cemetery is at, because it was all in unmarked graves around in that area, they all said the same thing. There's too many like spirits dancing around. There has been so many weird noises. It was just really eerie. I mean,
Mhm.
even my ex-husband said the same thing. It's super eerie. Is you can feel this the spiritual pressure there. People are have this unrest because they were murdered. And
Mhm.
that right there, I said, oh my goodness. Not only we just kept back from this information in our area because it was kind of like a secret, but finding out that a lot of these truckers who came around in that property in that area in Slocum, Texas, that they experienced the same thing. And that scares the crap out of me when you hear ghost stories, paranoia stories. I mean, even my grandmother has like this ghost in her house. And everybody has experienced the same spirit, spooky specter, tall. We call him a tall man. That dude would sit there and look at us while we sitting there eating in the kitchen.
Mm.
And we will pause and we would just be in conversation, my brother and my cousin. We'd just be in the kitchen talking, eating, and then all of a sudden we all get still and we stop talking.
Mm.
And we're just and we're I mean and we can feel everything in our whole body just like all the color and everything just sucked out of our body. The hair on our like bodies, like the back of our necks too, like our arms are standing up.
Mhm.
And we're trying to like eat, but we're too scared to eat because if we look at the corner of our eye into the living room, we will see a tall dark figure sitting there staring at us.
Mm.
Girl,
Yeah.
you talking about? I got some stories about the ooh, baby. The dude, even the dude sat on my foot one night, and I heard him breathing. I said, awesome. Oh my God, I feel like I'm in Poltergeist. But
Well, I personally never experienced any paranormal or supernatural.
hmm
Um and I don't want to, because I
you
don't
don't.
no, I do and I don't. It just, it's one of those things where if it's like daylight and all the windows are open, the doors are open, and I'm not in the house and I can see it through binoculars, like it has to be something where I don't feel like I'm trapped.
hmm
Because I don't think being in a house, after midnight and doing ghost haunting is me. However, I do have a second show about stuff like that. So it's just, it's like I want to know but don't want to know type deal. It's a love hate
hmm
thing. I believe in ghosts? Do I believe in all that stuff? I believe it exists, but I've never seen it. So I cannot say for sure it is real. However, it can be real. It just depends on all these debunking that you have to do.
hmm
That's why my partner that was on there, her name is Dr. Lovey for the Preternatural Mysteries part.
hmm
She she studied paranormal.
hmm
Um, so she is more of like, these are scientific facts, these are it. And I'm the one that's like, okay, I'm the devil's advocate
hmm
of the show, um, based on just logic. I'm very logic thinking. It's probably a
hmm
term for that. I don't know. But even when I watch horror movies
hmm
and I'm analyzing them for my
hmm
guest, um, it I have to see where they're coming from, where my guest is coming from. So when I have my guest on my show, I'm actually reviewing their horror movie with them.
hmm
So it's not just an interview. I mean, it seems like an interview, but I'm breaking it down. And
Right.
one of them, um, Ryan Spindell,
hmm
his movie is it's on Shudder. It's called The Mortuary Collection.
hmm
And the first time I watched it, I absolutely loved it. And I saw an inspiration into that. And when I had him on the show, I said, I see Tales from the Hood. And he was like, you're correct. That was my inspiration. I mean, from the moment I saw the house in that movie, I was like, nope, that is it's all the way through. And it was very strong in it. And he said, yes, he absolutely loved Tales from the Hood. And that was his inspiration. Also, there were some things in the film from the beginning, middle, and end. And I break down scene by scene for myself,
hmm
and I take a lot of notes. And when I talked to him, I was like, I saw this, I saw this. And then he, you know, would talk about, or any director would talk about, maybe they had a tragic moment in their lives, because sometimes a scene is too personal. Like it
hmm
just feel like, no, it's too accurate, because like I said,
hmm
I use logic.
hmm
Not all the time, because that takes a lot of energy, but only when I only do that when it comes to when I'm having the guest on my show. I only do that for the guest. Um, so when I was like, there was a scene where there was a woman who passed away, and she was just suffering, and the person was suffering too, that was taking care of her. He wasn't sick, but he was also suffering, have to take care of her, have to deal with her. And he brought up his grandmother, where it was very tough on the family, not just her. And that's what he said about his life. So sometimes the guests feel comfortable enough to talk about certain things on my show. I've had guests that came out of the closet. They said, hey, they were gay, they were lesbian, because they feel comfortable. I make sure all my guests are comfortable. It's a safe space. I don't care what you're into or who you are. um we're talking about the movie, but if you feel comfortable to talk about personal things, um do so if it relates to what we're talking about, and it you want people to see who you really are. um yeah, so I've had that situation. I've seen things where I said, the clothing someone's wearing indicate sadness, happy. And there
Mhm.
was one director, he was like, oh, and he was like, oh, because I really love this band and I made sure it was in there. That's part of a band. But the
Mhm.
clothing indicate the situation the person was going through, their journey throughout the film.
Mhm.
And he didn't even know that. Like he probably did it subconsciously, but when I
Mhm.
pointed it out, it was like, oh, he made him aware of that. And I learned that stuff. um I went to film school, and that some things that I have learned about
Mhm.
that, because a lot of classic films, the not the black and white, because there's no
Mhm.
color, but the ones in the color um realm would
Mhm.
do that to indicate, passion and stuff like that. Paintings, I took art history. Paintings did a lot of that, um, because especially a lot of early paintings, classic
Mhm.
paintings,
Mhm.
Michelangelo and Brock and all that stuff, they were commissioned by the church because the church was the only time that really had money, unless you were, a king or queen or something. And
Aristocrat.
yeah, yeah, that too. So yeah, unless you had to have some money because it was expensive and paints were expensive. The artists were expensive. So, but yeah, they were commissioned a lot by the church. So you see a lot of paintings with Christ and stuff, but you see the colors, the blues, the reds, stuff like that. And learning art history, that is why they would use those colors. And that same thing transitioned into film, that a lot
Mhm.
of directors have a certain aesthetic that they have to show, and especially a period piece. And then as you're watching it and you see a character wearing white all the time,
Mhm.
oh, that means
Mhm.
purity, their innocence, but it could be the enemy. So you
Mhm.
have to follow the story.
Mhm.
A lot of blues, a lot of passion and sorrow. So I learned that stuff. So when I'm watching a film and
Mhm.
have to break it down, I pay attention to that. So there's several things. And then it's the story. Is it about a child being abused? Is it about a person being abused? And I talk about that and I break it down how they're being abused, because coming from abusive family, it's a I use my life experience when I'm breaking these films down, when it comes to the psychological of part of how it affects a child. And that's kind of scary, because sometimes you have to become the character. So I'm like the detective, have to become the killer to find the killer.
Mhm.
um it takes a lot. I'm exhausted when I do it, but that's something I love doing, is interviewing people about their films. And one, it's not about me, it's for
Mhm.
them. It improves their next film, or they correct a film. Like, oh, especially if they're still filming and it's still in the process. Those are a lot of independent films. They just want me to see. It's like a concept or something. um, and then they change things up or fix things, or it's just sometimes you just need someone to critique something,
Mm-hmm.
but be truthful. You don't have to be harsh and mean. That's
Mm-hmm.
or I see that a lot of film critics and reviewers. It's like, oh, this movie is terrible. Well,
Mm-hmm.
why is it terrible?
Right.
Sometimes you may feel like your thoughts don't matter, and I struggle with that. But when
Yeah.
someone asks me, what do you think? And I tell them what I think. I have to be mindful because that is their baby, that is their work, that's the time they put in, their money. So when
Mm-hmm.
you're saying a movie is terrible, don't say a movie is terrible. Say, you know what? I saw these elements in here, but and then I saw this
Yes.
in here, and although this movie is not for me, you may enjoy it because of X, Y, and Z. But
Yes.
you have to check it out for yourself. And I found movies that I thought was terrible. Like, oh, who
Mm-hmm.
made this? But I would never say don't watch it. Now you may hear me say this movie is bad, but I would never ever ever tell someone not to watch it. I would actually encourage you to watch it and tell me what you think, because I've came across some situations where someone saw a movie and said, "You know what? This was fun. I actually enjoyed it." But I thought it was bad. But see, it's like a painting. It's all subjective. It's all for a different interpretation. It's for a
Exactly.
conversation.
Yes.
Yes, a movie may be horrid, but
Mm-hmm.
but give critical reasons why. It could probably help the director, the writer, or whatnot. Because a lot of filmmakers that we see today, older ones, have
Mm-hmm.
started in horror. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
even Spielberg.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even Peter Jackson,
Yes, yes,
even
dead alive, dead
J.J.
alive.
Abrams.
Yes, yes.
You have to understand that. And now they're huge because it's a learning process. They're still learning. You may watch, J.J. Abrams Star Trek and be like,
Mm-hmm.
what in
Yeah,
the world? But you see it differently in number two. You know what I'm
yes,
saying?
yeah.
Um, Believe me, your words matter when it comes to film. It's just, if you're screaming, no one's going to listen. But if you're calm and say, you know what, I see X, Y, and Z, these were the issues. A director may be flipping through the internet or a magazine and read that and be like, you know what, I get what they're saying. And on
Mm-hmm.
their next film, they will remember that and correct themselves. It just, it's just how you do it. Yeah.
Girl, you had me over here like I'm finna break out with my tambourine and have the Holy Ghost. Because you were nothing, you girl, you talking nothing but facts. You talking nothing but facts. Particularly which you said you use logic. I may sound like on my podcast, like I'm just going off random off tangents. But when I
Mhm.
say we get back to the main point, it's because I'm looking at this at a logical sense of breaking it down. You
Mhm.
also mentioned colors because you took art history. I did too. And one director I particularly paid attention is Guillermo del Toro.
Mhm.
And Guillermo del Toro uses the color red with his protagonist. You see it in Pan's Labyrinth.
Mhm. Mhm.
You see it in his first film, Chronos, with the little granddaughter.
Mhm.
The Shape of Water.
Mhm.
Hellboy, all of that. You see that he uses red, and it's because of his heritage and his his culture, in Mexico, because he's Mexican. He's from
Mhm.
Mexico. And you see that, you see a lot of that color therapy of what he used in his movies. The same way with Sam Raimi, you see, like when he started off, what was like Evil Dead.
Mhm.
Girl ran out of money. Everything
Yeah.
came back. What he used, what my son said when he was listening to the commentary. He's about 3 or 4 years old. He said, "Mom, on Evil Dead, they used oatmeal for like the other scenes." I'm like, "What are you doing?" But you see him using the color blue with Bruce Campbell's character Ash
Mhm.
because it's like that blue collar man, that regular guy, shop smart, shop
Mhm.
as smart, you know.
Mhm.
But that blue is more of like that hero type, color. You see it with Superman, and a lot of people who create films. It doesn't matter art, whatever in that art medium, they use a lot of color therapy. And
Mhm.
I reviewed some movies myself, and I reviewed this movie called the man that time travel or something like that from the year 3036. It was a horrible movie, but it was like an independent one.
Mhm.
But I sat there and picked out some of the things that I liked about it, and then some of the things I did not like about it. But guess what? I actually appreciate that filmmaker who did not have like this big, huge budget of putting this on. And you can find it like on Tubi or something. And my sister was telling me this, and it scared the living daylight out of her. And came out when, COVID time. And this
Mhm.
guy came out with this movie. And it scared the crap out of her. I watched it. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so boring. But I like had the fun of just watching this because this is a guy who created this. He created the story, blah blah blah, like from the lighting, etc., costuming, just things like that. It was just stuff that he had to use. He had to do what he had to do, but I still did not like it. But I had fun watching it. It was boring and stuff, but you have to be non-biased of like seeing both sides, and
Mhm.
that what makes you unique is because you break it down. You're not going willy-nilly with it. I have seen some content creators, not naming any names. I'm not gonna boo-boo on that, but it just doesn't have that intellectual appeal because I like being intellectually stimulated, and I
Mhm.
also like to be enjoyed, but I also like to see like a breakdown of how why is this film. You mentioned about caregiving. The woman was sick, but you see the suffering from the caregiver. Guess what? We can all relate. I just can relate to that because guess what? My grandmother passed away in July.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. It's fun. She's in a better place and everything. I miss her like the Dickens. But guess
Mhm.
what? I caregiver for her. My cousin caregiver for her. My uncle caregiver for her. That is exhausting.
Mhm. It is.
It takes a lot out of you. So much emotionally and mentally, physically. It just
Mhm.
does. And when you put your personal stories, and I do the same thing with mine too, put a personal story with mine. If it was a different film, like if I watched it, say like RoboCop, which is actually a modern day Frankenstein movie disguised as an action science fiction movie.
Mhm.
I remember as 10 years old just bawling and crying at this movie because guess what? I felt like shit. I got bullied a lot. And
Mm.
so I internalized that as like, man, this man had everything taken away from him. Then OCP changed him into like this crime fighting, cyborg. Now he's confused. The confliction is what got me into my heart, and it was very sentimental because he didn't know if he was a man or a machine. He was like, I don't know if I'm a human or I'm a machine. And I was going through a lot of things um, around that time, some abuse and everything else. And it's like, do I feel like I'm human? Do I feel like I'm worthy of living, or do I feel worthy of not living?
Mm.
It was like so much in RoboCop that it is. It's sentimental to my heart. I always love RoboCop, and I love how you make your guests, the people that you interview, comfortable where they just come out and that's good that you do that, because like really you don't want your guests to come up all stiff and and like that. You create that safe space, and you got a very calm and soothing voice too. You really do. And they see how your personality shine when you interview them. They like, this is my friend right here. Yeah, what's up, girl? How you doing? Shoot, yeah, blah 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 blah. I love that. You always want your guests to feel so comfortable. You don't want them to feel uptight and terse and just like, ooh,
Well,
like they holding in a fart or whatever. You want to be like, hold on, girl, let me, excuse me and everything, but I'm comfortable with you. You have that like, let me be comfortable. 'Cause I gotta poop, and then y'all just continue to go on. Like that's
well,
it, girl. That's the atmosphere like that.
another thing I've noticed doing
Mhm.
this is that the horror community is a very small community,
Mhm.
very small. Um, Everybody works with somebody that they know from somewhere in some
Mhm.
form. And if you come off of this attitude or very aggressive or just mean or whatnot, that stuff spreads. It just
Mhm.
keeps going and going. And for me, I'm trying to establish something,
Mhm.
and I want people to know that they're welcome.
Mhm.
Um, I don't care what you are. Let's talk about your
Mhm.
film. You know,
Right.
that's important to me than anything else. And I want that to be known.
Right.
And someone, a friend of mine that I had, was now a friend of mine, I had her on my show. She did the
Mhm.
makeup. Her name is Jessie Seitz, and she did the makeup on Jacob's wife. She
Mhm.
and she was telling me about a an idea of a documentary she was coming up with, and she had let me know about it. Many months went by, and she was saying, "Oh, she's trying to get it off the
Mhm.
ground." Many months went by, and she said, "Hey, you want to be in the documentary? I really do want you in there." And I was like, "Oh, okay." Long story short, the same people that I interviewed for
Mhm.
the revealer,
Mhm.
they were on my show. We talked about their film and their experience of the film. I had two of the main stars and the writer and the director.
Mhm.
And I mean, some of us was crying. I mean, we really broke down. Well, I really broke down the film, but they understood where I was coming from. And
Mhm.
some of them came out. I mean, they probably was out, but they felt comfortable to
Yeah.
say that. And it was just tears. The meaning behind what I saw, these
Mhm.
people, those same people are producing her documentary, and they wanted me in the documentary.
That is
So
amazing.
that's why I said,
Congratulations on
"Oh,
that.
thank you." um, that's what I'm saying. Like, the world and is so small, and your
Mhm.
reputation is number one above anything. And I don't care if you're black, white, Asian, Latino, Mexican, Puerto Rican, wherever you're from, the reputation that you have is above all. Then
Mhm.
it's everything else.
Mhm.
Because if they say, oh my God, this girl named Keisha or whatever, I mean, she's great and all, but she's such a B. You know what I mean? Like that is who you gonna be. Oh, I don't want to work with
Mhm.
that. They don't even give you a
Mhm.
chance. And they
Mm-mm.
skip over you and you never even know about it. And then you're like, man, I've been working hard and why I can't get in the door,
Mhm.
and it's because the people see you coming and they lock it because you
Yep.
have this reputation. That's why I tell
Mhm.
people, if you're going to review a movie, you could say a movie's bad, but give some concrete reason.
Right.
Don't be just knock it down. Oh my God, the director was terrible. He didn't know what he was
Yeah.
doing, because you never know. Like, oh man, I really want to interview this person. And they could be the brother of the director of the movie you hated.
Baby,
You know what
speak
I'm saying?
back.
So it's
Yes.
directors and writers and producers, they understand
Mhm.
criticism, whether they
Mhm.
like it or not. They understand people are going to hate their film, people are going to love it. But it's the respect of how you
Mhm.
do it, because you never know who's going to open that damn door. You
Mhm.
have no idea. And that is something I am learning. I mean, it's just, it does not matter what you're doing. It's the reputation. It's number one. Then it's your skin. Then it's
Mhm.
everything else. Now you do have jerks out there that see your
Oh
skin
yeah.
before
Oh yeah.
you. It's
Mhm.
you can't change what's in people's minds and in their hearts. You just have to work. Yes, as a Black woman, I have to work 10 times harder to show what I could do. It's not impossible. It's just freaking hard. It's hard as hell. But I am thankful,
Mhm.
thankful for the opportunities that has came my way. And it wasn't because I sat and complained. I
Mhm.
just kept doing it. There are things that people have not done that says, girl, how are you doing it? Like, I came up with the whole thing about Shudderary, where I dedicate an entire month to Shudder. Now, anyone could do that. It's not hard. Just sit there and say, oh, I want to talk about Shudder movies. But I took it a step further.
You sure did.
I contacted a person from Shudder
Mhm.
and said, hey, I'm doing this thing. Can you help me out getting contact with directors, and I'll go from there? And they did. And it was on Instagram Live. I had 12 people, and it worked out. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it again. But this time, go a little step further. They're all pre recorded. And I talked to Samuel Zimmerman, who is the the whole, he's every movie, every show goes through his fingers. He
Mhm.
is Shutter, pretty much. Um, so he was the first. I talked to him first on
Mhm.
when I first began, but then I was like, I'm gonna do a number two,
Mhm.
part two for this. So a year went by, and I planned it, and I did it
Mhm.
again, and he had such a great time, and everyone else. And then I guess my reputation from there, oh, she's not crazy. She's not this weird person. So it was like, who do you need? Who can we get in contact for you? And I was like, oh, okay. So then it worked out. And that's a reputation that I have. I do not work for Shutter. Some people
Mhm.
think I'm a gateway. I've had that people like try to be friends with me and just say, "Oh, what about Shutter?" You know, or how can I, like, I don't know. I don't work for them. I
Right.
I can't help you there. Um, but the reputation from some of the people, the head of press and the CEO and the main programmer, is that I'm a cool person. That's as far as it go. I
Yeah.
don't work for them. I don't affiliate. I don't anything. The ability to email and say, hey, I really want to talk to these people. I am so thankful that I'm
Mhm.
able to get that far. It doesn't, they can't always do it,
Right.
but to get that far is actually pretty nice. Now I'm doing it a third time, and I would have to ask and see who's available and go from there. But always go a step further. You just never know who is willing to listen. You just get one person to listen to you, one. and it could change your whole life. Being on Dead Meat changed my whole life. I still had to do the work,
Right.
but I knew I had one shot. They gave me the stage and I danced. They didn't help me, they gave me the stage. And from then on, it's the work you put in. People, none of this stuff or anything that I got to go to just came to me because somebody just wanted to do it. Someone
Mhm.
saw something I did and was happy about it and gave me a shot. And then I become friends. Some of the directors from Shudderary are now my friends. Some of the
Mhm.
writers, some are now my friends. Um, it's just something I'm just so thankful. Now, my personal life, there's a point where I hope they mesh together,
Mhm.
um, and I'm able to live off what I do. I'm
Mhm.
able to keep doing what I do. And it's
Mhm.
hard. There's times I want to cry. There's times I do cry. I sit in the corner. I'm just upset. I get depressed. I'm unhappy. Not because of the work that I'm doing, is that I feel like I'm almost there
Yeah.
to get out of where I am, and it's like, oh, it's just right there. And I also sometimes compare myself to others, which it's a normal thing. People say, oh, don't do it. No, I don't care who you are. You're going to look at someone and be like, oh man, I wish I could do that. And that's normal,
Mhm.
but don't stay in that mindset. And I've had to learn the hard way. There are people that are my friends, um, who've been doing this 10 years, 20 years, what
Mhm.
I'm doing.
Mhm.
And I'm expected to start 3 years in, and oh my gosh, I got to have like this contract. Um, but no, you don't have the experience. Some people
Mhm.
do it in a short time, and then, oh my goodness, they're like, phenomenal. But the blood, sweat, and tears is real, and you will have to go through it. I don't care who you are. Now, what's great about it is if you go through the blood, sweat, and tears before you make it big. If you're Because you're going to go through it before, the middle, during, or after. But I rather go
Mhm.
through it before, at least get the big stuff out the way.
Right.
And then you can enjoy and have a whole new set of problems. But it's not that blood, sweat, and tears. But because I think if you hit fame and everything's so fast, it gets you.
Mhm.
It's going to get you because now you can't handle it because everybody's looking at you. Now, if you're crying and blood, sweat, and tears before you get there, all they're going to see is your achievements, and that's okay because you can't please everybody. Oh my gosh, she did this, she did that,
Sure
and
can.
yeah, and I've had that experience. Like, oh my god, how are you able to do that? And then people look at horror movies and beyond, and I have to tell you, no, I had a blog before this. I
Mhm.
had to overcome speech problems. I would get
Mhm.
so much anxiety talking to people. I would sweat. And you say you wouldn't see that now. I still sweat. I get nervous every interview. I don't care who they are. I am nervous because it is natural. It is
Mhm.
natural. If you're not nervous, something's wrong. You're not prepared. And that's 100%. And I learned that when I took theater. You
Mhm.
have to be nervous because you are
Mhm.
aware. You don't have to be so nervous you can't get out there. That's something else. But if you have those little butterflies in your stomach, your heart is
Woo.
racing, and you're like, "Ooh, I can't breathe," you are prepared. Now go have a good show.
Right.
Hmm.
You just made me. I have never done this on this podcast. You just literally put me in tears. If you did
Oh,
not hear me sniff, You put me. You did. You just put me in tears. Gosh, girl, you and Christine Germain have literally put me in tears. Y'all done made me cry.
Because I'm speaking the truth. Sometimes
You
when
are.
no one helped me when I was younger. No one said, I didn't have no one to save me. I wasn't, I didn't have, Falcor swoop down and take me away. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have a gizmo. No, but I'm being for real. I didn't
I
have,
know.
these things where someone could just take me away. Peter Pan didn't take me to Never Never Land, I I didn't have that. I had to deal with every emotional abuse or good thing or feelings of happiness. I didn't have no one to share it. And because the people that I was sharing my happiness with,
Didn't
especially my
want you to be
family, were jealous.
didn't want you to be happy. Don't want nothing
Yeah.
for you. They just rather for you to just
Yeah.
wallow in sadness
Yeah. Because
and
they, I mean, because they think you're better than them. And my last relationship, I mean, he was a
Mhm.
completely narcissist.
Oh Lord have mercy.
And I could
It
not,
wasn't my ex-husband.
and I was with him for 9 years and I loved him. I loved him. I would have gave him half my heart if I could, all of it, because I could not see myself living. Not, it wasn't without him. That's kind of weird. It was
Mhm,
living. Um, I couldn't live knowing I could have helped him live because my life, even though I valued it, I
mhm,
felt like I wanted to see him go on because I loved him so much. But when I started the blog and this, I was with him and
mhm.
I wanted us to grow an empire because he was into comic books, he was
Yeah.
into video games and horror. There's video games, it goes hand in
Mhm,
hand. There's comic
mhm.
books,
Yeah, right.
and he was very good at it, but he had machismo. He was
Ugh,
the misogynistic, and I didn't. You don't
ugh.
learn about a person until you live with them. I
You
don't
sure
care
right about
who you
that.
are. Sometimes they reveal themselves up front, but you know who they are um, once you live with them. And by that time, financially, I couldn't leave because things expensive, and now it's crazy. So it was just a tough thing. And I really wanted him to be with me. And he found every way to not be with me and
Mhm.
sometimes sabotage me, um,
Mm.
because he didn't want to see me better than him. And I couldn't
Right.
understand that when you're standing with me. I never downgraded him. I always wanted him to be with me. But that's another story. But that is very hurtful. And
It is.
sometimes there's one thing I have to say that no one gets anything that I'm saying is that sometimes you have to do it alone and you cannot rely on anybody to help you. But if someone volunteers to help you, take it. Take it.
Shoot.
Take it because it will probably never happen again. Now, other than that, you know, if you're into knitting
Mhm.
and you want to have a whole story about knitting and you have a cousin that knits and you want to go in business and she's lollygagging and procrastinating, then you have to realize you got to do it yourself. It's harder by yourself. Believe me, I
It
used to
is.
cry when I see James and Chelsea, not because I wanted to be like them. It was because of the friendship. Even though they were together, it was the
Mhm.
friendship that they had and the
Yeah.
story that they told, how they got there is just remarkable. And I wanted that part. It was like I wanted a partner. I wanted a partner. If I cried, they were crying with me. If I fell down, we fell together and we got up together. I wanted that, not just them, but I have other friends out there who are married and who are relation. It's not easy, believe me.
No, it's not.
Relationships are not easy, but they fell together. They got up together. They ran together. They were dragging each other, and I wanted that part. And it's scary to do it alone, but I'm doing it alone. I am right now saying, with you, I am doing this alone. And it scares the hell out of me because once I fail, there's no one to help me get up. I have to get up when I fail. And that is the hardest thing you could ever do in your life is when you hit the rock bottom, you're going to have to
Mm.
stand up with scraped knees, broken ankles, black eyes, broken
Blood.
ribs. Yeah, I mean, spitting your teeth out and stand up and just keep going. And while everyone's pointing at you, you look horrible, you look terrible, you're going to fail, and you're all beaten up just just to feel that hope that if you keep going, you'll make it. You don't know when you'll make it. It may take you a year, 6 months, 10, 20 years, but you feel it, you're going to make it. And I try to use that part because I don't have a partner. And
Yeah,
yeah, sometimes I cry and I'm not ashamed about it. I cry because I have to make every decision by myself. And that
yeah.
decision could break or
Mhm,
make it. That is
mhm.
scary. But if you have a partner you could feed off, throw ideas and trial and error before you make the leap, that is the most beautiful thing you can ever have. But not a lot of people have that. And one move could ruin your whole life. And that's scary.
Again, you done got me sitting up tearing up and stuff. You really have because you doing everything by yourself. I'm doing this by myself too. And I did the segment, the spooky horror read segment. I picked four authors. You know, because everybody was doing like 30 days of Halloween, whatever, whatever. I was like, I'm not gonna do that. I said, because I love to read books. So I
Hmm.
picked out four authors and I had them to record, excerpts from their books. And I just put it together. I put it out there. And I
Hmm.
had two ask me, how did you do it? Knowing that you DJ. Now I'm an instructor training for lashes and stuff, and also I also teaching the kid the students how to do eyelash extensions. I'm getting ready for tax season.
Hmm.
I have my own tax business. I'm gonna move my all my stuff out of my house up into an office building. I also do mobile notary. And they say, how do you do it? I said, well, I got jumped in the TARDIS and everything else. I can jump in a DeLorean, do that. But I do that by myself. It is hard. And I feel you 100%. You cry, you cry. I don't have my crying moments. I don't have where I'm like, I don't even want to do this shit anymore. I done seen people where they are like this, they're so successful with it and everything else. And I'm like, how come I don't have this? Like, how come I can't have this type of like, audience and everything else? But guess what? That just makes me like, you know what? Keep pushing, keep going.
Hmm.
You'll find it. You find your voice. Keep doing it. And I feel you on that partner thing, girl, because I want somebody to be there for me. And I totally get the whole relationship with the narcissist. Baby, I was married to one.
Mm.
And that's a story right there because I was going to move out to Southern California as a makeup artist with my daughter at the time. It was from a previous relationship. It was just me and my daughter. And My ex-husband at the time, we were just dating and stuff. And I just never understood why he would sit there and call me mediocre. You're just a mediocre makeup artist. You know, you go out there, nobody's not going to recognize you. And I sat there and believed that because I didn't have that self esteem about myself. And plus, I'm still dealing the grief of my mother passing at 40 years old. And I was like around 25, 26. And I don't went through some shit, girl. I was evicted out of my apartment. I got my car repoed. I got kicked out of beauty school, not once, but twice. I even got fired from a job, all trying to go to beauty school, then trying to take care of a little girl, my daughter. She's 23 now.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought to myself, why am I believing this dude of knowing before when I met him, I went through a whole bunch of shit.
Yeah.
And I graduated from beauty college and got my license and everything else. And he
Mm-hmm.
was not supportive, not at all. Not me starting my career as an esthetician. Did not want. He always wanted me to support his stuff. I did. I bent over backwards. I was tired. Girl, I
Mm-hmm.
had a breakdown. I almost killed him. I actually almost killed him. I, like what's this show? Snap. It was a snap moment. Girl, I broke out of my clothes like I was the Incredible Hulk. I ripped all of my clothes. And not only that, I was on my cycle at the time.
Mm.
Girl, they gave me the extra strength. I mean, extra Incredible Hulk strength right there. Girl, butt naked, breaking down the door, beating. I'm punching holes. My ex in laws asked me, who put them holes in the door? Me.
Mm.
Going after your son, finna kill him.
Mm.
And I had a knife. I was ready to stab him. Girl, I was like, yes, I'm gonna stab him because I had enough of that. I can't I can't do a relationship that is just so one-sided. And I learned from that because I said, I deserve a lot of respect. I deserve, somebody that loves me of who I am and support me as well as I love and support them.
Mm-hmm.
So that healthy, reciprocity between each other, and just not only just like as lovers, but as best friends, a
Mm-hmm.
partner, all of that. And I done been in a marriage where it was just real shitty, but I had some good moments in it too.
Mm-hmm.
Shoot, I done got my nose messed up by him. It was domestic violence,
Mm.
but girl, I had to defend myself too because I would not fight back. And I couldn't believe that I cannot believe I'm in a relationship like this. And I never thought in a million years I would be in something like that. But there is a backstory to that because guess what? You always have that generational thing,
Mm-hmm.
passing down. And then you're wondering why it was like that. And you're like, oh, my mom and dad.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, I say, I'm gonna get help. I
Mm-hmm.
divorced. um it took a long time for me to get up out of that mode of because how much he psychologically damaged me.
Mm-hmm.
It took a long time. It took a long time. I got my stuff back. I feel, girl, don't you feel good that you got your soul back? Because when you with a narcissist girl, they will eat your soul alive.
I still have a long way to go, but I'm I'm aware. I'm much aware now because
Exactly.
at the time, it was new. I didn't know I was
Mm-hmm.
experiencing what I did, and knowing now that, oh my god, that wasn't healthy.
Mm-hmm.
This was a sign. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, you know, never been in this kind of relationship type thing. It was like,
Yeah.
wow, when I started reading things and seeing videos and people expressing and talking about how they survived that kind of relationship. And it was this common structure that they were in. Like, this is
Mm-hmm.
what it is. Even doctors, like, I've come across this stuff now. It's like, I never knew about that, you know, but it's a learning process. Life is learning. Life is not, if
It
you're
doesn't have a
stuck
manual.
somewhere, if you're set in stone of what you think life is, you're destined to fail in everything, because
Right.
you have to learn something every day. I don't care what it is. You learn something. You have to be willing to understand. You may not agree, but
Mm-hmm.
learn it. Oh,
Right.
I learned this. I'm not into it, but I did. I get it. And it's just learning. So at the age I am now, I came to the point,
Mm-hmm.
where I feel like, oh, I might be alone. I might be alone because, being in such a damaged relationship,
Mm-hmm.
it could, you start to see things and get to the point. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I want to know what's going on. Like, I don't want to know about, what's your favorite color. I don't want to know about these things and your favorite music. What is your plan? Like, I,
Yes.
I'm just that, because I went through a 9-year relationship, and before then, I was in a 8 to 15 year relationship. So, I'm like, I don't have any kids.
Mm-hmm.
Never been married, thank goodness. But it's like, I don't want to. I don't have time to waste. Don't wait,
Right.
because I've wasted it already. Now I'm trying to have this horror movie career. I'm trying to build this reputation up. I'm trying to build something up and get myself out there. And I still have a long way to go. I mean, I don't know what people see. Some people see things on the outside and be like, "Oh man, you got X, Y, and Z," but the person that's in it don't see shit. Oh, excuse me.
Oh, you girl, you all right. I say
Okay,
shit, damn, damn, and
okay,
everything.
but
Girl,
but may not
don't do
see
all
it,
that
and when
stuff.
I'm not trying to be modest, I'm not trying to be these things. It's just that when someone says like, "Oh my gosh," I can't believe I'm talking to you, I just feel like, really, like, really. I don't feel like I'm there. I don't feel like I'm there yet. I feel like I'm on my way there.
Yeah.
Um, or maybe I've done a lot and I don't realize it yet. And I'm just going, maybe I haven't sat down and said, oh my God, look at what I've achieved. But I'm still running. I'm still in the race. I'm still trying to do my race.
Mm-hmm.
I used to look at other people races, and then sometimes it's real crappy over there. And it's like, wait a minute, I need to stay on my race. I'm at this time in my life where my race has begun. And I skip and hop and walk and run, and that's okay, because eventually when I get to the end, it's I'm the winner of my own race. And
Right.
it's a pretty tough mindset. But you just have to. And especially with this particular genre, it's really
Mm-hmm.
tough, because it
Mm-hmm.
is a white man's genre, and that's not a negative thing. It's
No,
just
it's
what
not.
it is. It started like that from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
When for film, of course. um
Mm-hmm.
and it just, it's keep going. And yes, we have some wonderful black artists in
Right.
horror, but it's a handful in comparison. And the people who have the keys to the studio are not black mostly. So
Mm-hmm.
you still have to appeal to all audiences. And
Right.
once you're able to get in the door, this is what I tell people, once you're able to get in the door, then you bring people that look like you with you. You just got to get the door open, but you have to appeal to the people that you feel like you don't have to. Oh, I, you know, I wanted black everything. I wanted Mexican everything. That's great. Do it.
Right.
But
Yes.
who has the key to that studio you're trying to get in there? You have to appeal to that. There's nothing wrong with, you're not selling out.
You're
You're
not.
not. You just have to appeal to the audience. You can have your everything, but that's what you have to do. And for one example, it's this director. I'm going to say his name wrong. I know I am, but it's either Damien Rugna.
Leon.
Damien
Not no.
Rugna. I think it's how you
Ruthless.
say that. He's a he directed Terrified. That's on Shudder. And that movie scared the crap out of me. It was very subtle what he did, but I mean, great writing, great acting. It was wonderful. And I interviewed him for
Ooh.
Shudderary 2 years ago. And he was like, I said, man, your movie was amazing. Amazing. It's an Argentina film. And he was like, really? I was like, wait a minute. You don't know how great your film is? Because he lives in Argentina. And he was like, I know, but I didn't know it was that great. I said, "Oh my goodness, that you're one of the number ones over here of the scariest horror movie. You're in the top of almost everyone's list." And he was so thankful. But wait, here's more. Okay, so Shutter is part of AMC.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you see where I'm going with that?
Oh yeah.
His film got in here. Now he's working on another film for Shutter. Do you see what I'm saying?
I see what
But
I see where
everybody
you're
in the film is from Argentina.
going. Mm-hmm.
That's what you do. You
Mm-hmm.
bring forth, but you're appealing to everyone. And he's getting his people jobs. You see what I'm saying? That's how
I got
you do it. It's nothing wrong with that.
no, it's not. It really isn't.
And he's
I'm
thankful. I mean, people are from Argentina. I mean, they have horror movies there, but now he's opening doors. People are seeing opportunities. We have
mhm.
actors we've never seen, and I've never heard of any of those actors, but oh my goodness, they were acting their butts off in the film. And now they're working on jobs. One guy,
Mhm.
I did a thing where send in your film, your short film, and I watched this short film, and it was called Behind the Door, and
Mhm.
it was one of the best short films I've ever seen. Very subtle, two
Uh-huh.
actors, and it was during the COVID,
Mhm.
and I told him it was the one of the best I've ever seen. It was so scary to be such small detail. And
Mhm.
turns out I believe, is the cameraman
Oh,
or working on the film that is currently that Damien Rugna is working on. I didn't know that.
that is so awesome.
So you see how the horror community is very tiny,
Mhm.
even across the world is very tiny. But
Mhm.
it's Argentina. Beautiful language, beautiful writing, beautiful art, beautiful direct. I mean, horror. It's just beautiful the way they do it. But he's getting his people recognized that they can write horror, they can direct horror, and now they got other opportunities coming here to the States. That's how you get your people in. And I keep telling people that. And Jordan Peele's doing that
Mhm.
because we're seeing these actors, these black actors that, I mean, beautifully um acting, it's not always drama and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. Now they're doing horror, but wow, what I'm saying? He appeals to all audience, black,
He does.
white, whatever, and he's giving everybody of people of color chances. And to
Mm-hmm.
show we can bring people to the theater, we can make millions of dollars. It
Right.
takes the right person, the right talent, the right skill, the right script, and we could do it. We don't have to be gang members,
Mm-hmm.
druggies. We
Mm-mm.
don't have to have the horror struggles. We don't
Oh no.
have to have that to make movies.
No, we don't.
And he is proving that. And
And
he
he
is also you could put a little bit of the black struggle in there, of course. That, I mean, yes, but it doesn't have to always be. Nope, definitely wasn't that.
Mm-mm. It sure was not.
No,
Mm-mm.
he
It
started with Get Out and he ended with Nope.
mm-hmm.
And he's still doing it. So in 2 years, we'll have another film because it seemed like every 2 to 3 years he's coming out. And, he's doing Window and Wild. He's appealing
I gotta
to
watch
the
that.
audience, and that's on Netflix. This man is a genius. He is the blueprint of film, and people are letting it go over their heads. I see it. I see it.
I do too.
So,
I I see that in Jordan Peele, and he's like blueprint, and he's opening all of this up, and I was like, this is the time for, like you said, we need to step in. We need to, like you was talking about. I'm looking up Terrified from Demona Rugna, and
yeah.
I love foreign horror films, girl. And I don't
Hmm.
think a lot of us don't talk about foreign horror films. They're very beautiful. They have a different perspective on horror. I love that. And
The one thing I don't like, and I'm going to say
mhm,
this,
mhm,
I don't like when we have these great foreign filmmakers,
mhm,
their work come here to the States. Beautiful, done. Just,
yeah,
oh my god, scare the crap out of you. I mean, we got Train to Busan, which is I believe is the number one zombie film ever.
that is
I
my
don't
number
care
one
what
zombie film.
nobody say. That,
It is, that is my number one zombie film
yeah.
with me too, because you had a girl. I'm snot booger crying and
Oh,
everything.
I
Yeah.
cried so hard I had to get up off the floor. I laid out.
Girl, I was like,
The
y'all leave me
motion,
alone.
the motion. That little girl
Yes.
should have won an Oscar. 3 Oscars.
She,
She should have taken all the Oscars. I
girl,
never
yeah.
seen so much truth in a child acting. I don't think they were acting. They probably did something to her because I was crying with her. I was like, oh
I
my God,
was
give this.
too.
If I ever meet that little girl, I'm giving her a hug. Like, girl, you acted your ass.
Girl, she
I'll
did
be
act
like,
that
blink
ass
twice if you're in danger because there is no way that was acting. What could you tell a child to cry like that, to show that much emotion? That's crazy. Um, but yeah, Train to Busan, One Cut of the Dead. I mean, oh my God. But anyway, so what I'm saying about that is that you
Mm-hmm.
get that. You get, oh my God, unbelievable. And you know what they do? They Americanize them.
Oh, I hate that shit.
So
Oh, girl.
now
Ooh.
there's a Train to Busan remake.
I spoke about that right there. It's on this podcast because I went off
That
about
hurts
that.
my soul. That hurts my
Oh,
heart.
goodness.
Why? Why?
I
Why?
know.
Because people don't want
Why?
to read? Why? There's no point to that. It's
It's
art. Do you
thank
think
you.
someone is going to redo the Mona Lisa?
No,
You're going
no.
or or any of the great art. I mean, who's gonna redo Frida? You think somebody
Hold
gonna
on,
Americanize Frida artwork? Hell no.
hold on. That's somebody trying to unmelt the clocks and stuff in Salvador Dali's surrealism painting.
Oh Lord. But
Girl, that's like
do you
that.
see what I'm saying? It's like, why are we
Yes,
doing that? Accept the culture. They did
exactly.
that for The Ring. They did
Yes,
that
they did.
um for The Grudge. Girl, the
Mm-hmm.
original Grudge scared the hell out of me more than the remake.
Baby, come on with it.
It's
Come
like,
on with
I
it.
get what you're doing. There's nothing wrong with your own perception of what you want, but taking something that's a masterpiece to
Yes,
Americanize it for the American audience because someone does not want to read the subtitles is just blasphemy.
it is blasphemy. Um,
Sometimes reading something is scary because now I love foreign horror. I don't watch it enough, but I should. I
mhm,
watch quite a bit. And
mhm.
but they use a lot of visuals because
Yes,
they know people don't have time to read every damn thing. And the only time you see a lot of dialogue when it comes to foreign horror is when there's nothing happening.
mm-hmm.
So they're sitting there talking, they're in the room trying to explain things. But when the
Mm-hmm.
shit hits the fan, it's very little dialogue because they need
Mm-hmm.
you to see what's going on, especially Japanese horror.
Yes, yes, yes.
Vietnamese, not so much. You have to really read with them, but the visuals are good. But the Koreans, oh, visuals, visuals. I mean, the
Girl,
Korean horror is so emotional. They
it
get you in the
is.
feels. That's Train to Busan. That's One Cut of the Dead. They get you in your heart. Also, Chinese Mandarin, they really get you in the feels of their culture of what they have to do. Japanese is mostly curses, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of curses. Um,
Ghosts,
oh
witches.
yeah, vengeful. They're
Mm-hmm.
masters of vengeful ghosts. Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, it's like don't. If I ever go to Japanese, I don't want to mess with nothing. I
Girl,
don't want
my
to
daughter
bring
told
nothing home with me.
Girl, my daughter said, "Well, I'm thinking about going to Japan because that's like on her bucket list that she want to live there and learn, study culinary over there." I'm like, "You better not bring no Ju-on and all them over here and everything, cause baby, I'm gonna have all my sage, my Florida water. I'm gonna call on the spirits of your grandmother, your great grandmother, your great grandfather, and everybody else because
they,
I'm in hoodoo. Like that's me. That's in my
they
bloodline.
definitely
That
believe in
hoodoo."
tradition. Yeah, Japanese believe in tradition, and you follow the rules. Yeah, it's just, but you learn that. I didn't go to Japan.
Mhm.
You don't do that. You learn by watching their films. They tell
Mhm.
you what the films there are majority about, and so that's what I'm saying. It's in Argentina, which I recently, after Terrified, is a lot of
Mhm.
ghost, a lot of unhinged ghost.
Mhm.
They watch you ghost. They love watching you and tormenting you. Especially Indonesia. Woo, those ghosts are just scary.
Oh,
Um,
oh.
but yeah, so that's what I'm saying. I don't know why they do that. Why they have to Americanize it. I just think it's a slap in the face of that culture. Um, but but what I mean also by the Americanized, sometimes the original director of The Ring will make it into the American version. Is
Mhm.
that okay? No. I think that's just a slap in the face because someone gave a big fat check and said, "Hey, if you throw in Michelle, Sarah Michelle Gallagher in there,
You throwing Buffy and homegirl that was on the Burger King commercials.
yeah,
You
so
throwing Daphne.
yeah, you know what I mean." But
Yeah.
it's just take what it is. It's just ridiculous. But they're going to do it. Who cares? They're going to keep doing it. We can stand here till we turn blue.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to do it. But those countries also make their versions of our film, so it goes both ways.
Yeah.
But either way, when it comes to opening the door for your fellow man, um, you got to get the door open, and there's
Right.
only one way to do that. So yeah.
Oh my gosh, this has been like the most just girl. We done went to church. You done got me crying. I mean, you done got me jumping up and stomping and stuff. Like hallelujah, you know. You made me get like the. Oh, I love it. No, I really love it. Oh my gosh. Jeez. You are literally just dang girl, you done got me stomped. You done got me stomped like that. Dang. Wow, you are the Oprah of horror. You are the freaking Oprah of horror. Gee whiz. And I love how you were so passionate about foreign horror movies, especially with the Americanized remakes of a lot. I feel that's a slap in the face and a spit in foreign horror, especially when they try to Americanize it because some people just don't want to read and they just too lazy. And I'm just like, but guess what? Like, I'm not trying to say like I'm this and that. When I first read subtitles in a movie, it was The Last Emperor, and it was two
Oh
hours.
yeah, yeah, I
That's
remember
the
that.
first time I read subtitles and actually paid attention to it.
Hmm.
And
That's
then
a
half of
good
it,
movie.
it's a good movie and it won a lot of Oscars. But the beginning to like halfway in the movie, I think it was when they start going into the wartime and things like that, when everything started changing in China,
Hmm.
that's when they started speaking English.
Yeah.
And then I was like, but I want the subtitles.
Sometimes it makes a movie better. I mean, it's weird. I was watching a film, and it was dubbed English, and I was upset
Ooh,
because I was
ooh,
like, I don't. It just I
ooh.
don't care. I think it was a Korean. I think it was
Mhm.
on Shudder. I can't remember what the damn movie was, but I was watching it, and it was in English, and I was sitting there and I was like, this is weird. Like it just felt wrong. And so I was going through the buttons and trying to figure out, and it was like, oh, okay. Put it back to the English whatever at the bottom, forgot just at the bottom, whatever, and back to them speaking the language they should be speaking. And I was like, oh, and I settled down, and it was like better. It was just, I don't know, it was just, I just, if it's a foreign horror movie, it's foreign.
It's foreign for a reason, people. It's
Yeah, I
foreign
don't
for a
I don't
reason.
want to dub it. It's terrible. It just sound weird. It's like
It does.
but um yeah, I mean, horror is just it's what you make of it. It's all many different levels. There's some extreme, there's some scary, there's some that's not scary, there's funny. It's for everyone. It's made from all types. uh I mean, it's not to be taken seriously, and what I mean by that, it's all entertainment. You could cry from it, you could be inspired by it, but it's entertainment, and far and foremost, and it's for fun. It's to get you laughing, scared, get under your blankets. Is there a monster under the bed? You won't sleep with your foot hanging off. That's it, it's all for fun,
Hmm.
and it should be looked at like that. Some people get very personal. There's nothing wrong with
Oh
that.
yeah,
uh, but at the end of the day, it's for our entertainment,
right.
and that's how it should be. It's acting. It isn't real. Freddy isn't coming to get you. You know, the tooth fairy's not going to come rip out your teeth. So it's and that's that distinction,
Hmm.
and that's where parenting comes in. If you have kids that wants to watch it,
Right.
if your kids want to see a horror movie, and you know they do, oh mom, I want to see, get them something small, like something that
Right.
isn't, I mean, Hocus Pocus, the first one, uh something that has a little bit, I mean, Gremlins,
Hmm.
Critters, things like that. Not that doesn't have a lot of nudity or weirdness in there. So start
Right.
them off small. Um, I mean, but it takes the parent to understand what the kid could tolerate and what it can't. There's cartoons, there's all kinds of stuff that could transition the kid into the deeper stuff of horror. But it takes parenting to understand, if the kid is in the room crying because there's a boogeyman, well, open the door. There's no boogeyman under your bed. There's no boogeyman in the closet.
Hmm.
Confront, let them understand, confront the situation. Don't just tell them, oh, go to bed. No. Let them know it's fake. It starts
Yeah.
with parenting. Um, so for me, growing up, horror was part of my life. First horror movie, I was about 4 or 5.
Hmm.
And don't be like my, well, you could be like my parents if you could tolerate, if your kids could tolerate it. But my parents just threw me into the movie The Thing. It was like, this is it. You look at this because you want to see it. And it
Uh-uh.
so yeah, so it just, and then we've been to the movies. I've seen Pet Cemetery at the theater. I've
Hmm.
seen The Blob. I've seen Evil Dead 2 at the drive-in. I've seen The Abyss. I've seen Aliens at the drive-in. So it was normal for me. It may not be for you, but it was for me. So from then on, I knew it was fake, but I was still scared as hell. you know
Yeah.
so but I'm glad I grew up where I can go trick or treating, and the sidewalks were packed. You could not. It was, you go with your friends and you were gone, and you had pillowcases full of candy. I am so glad I grew up during that time because that was the experience I had. So yeah.
That's just your experience is almost the same. The pillowcases, getting the trick or treat candy.
Yeah, we didn't use little bags or whatever they had. No, we had
Uh-uh.
pillowcases
Girl,
filled
the
up.
pillowcase.
You poured it
And
out in the
then
middle of the floor and you separate it.
right, and then come down to the Halloween costume. Uh they finna get you. My brother had a Yoda mask, and that was his Halloween costume. Uh I don't do masks because I just don't. I just like, it's too suffocating for me because I have claustrophobic issues. But now costumes, my mom, she was very creative. She's like, why don't y'all just create your costumes? So she would take us to Goodwill and we just pick stuff for like a costume,
Hmm.
and just make it our own. And because back then it was like, you could get a strawberry shortcake costume or whatever. That was like really big for Hasbro to like have cartoons as like dolls and action figures like He-Man and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And just the way how things were going, latchkey kids, divorce and all that. But you have like that creativity of like that one parent that says like, hey, let's create this costume for you, let's do this, let's do that. And
Hmm.
I grew up, uh I'm gonna tell we're gonna go on with the science fiction horror. You said The Thing. Love The Thing. I actually have McCready, of the NECA McCready doll that I bought. I was like, let me get this right here because I love The Thing. It has an ambiguity, like the ending is very ambiguous.
Hmm.
It really is, because when I watched it, I'm like, ooh, this terrified me, down to the practical effects, the storyline. And John Carpenter felt like it was just the worst film. Comes out to be a great film. Same thing with They Live. Um,
Mm-hmm.
too surreal and too much of what's going on. It's like that, like how the Simpsons, like how they predict like things in their show.
Mm-hmm.
They Live just it's like that. And I was like, man, this is crazy. This film still has that same tone, and it's still, we can see that right now in 2022. And
Mm-hmm.
but my mom really scared the hell out of us with V. Remember V, the lizard people, we come in peace and all that
Mm-hmm.
stuff, but they really coming to come get the, we're gonna snack on you humans, and y'all our source of protein and everything else. We're gonna steal all your resources. That was scary
Mm-hmm.
for an alien visitors to come, they looking like me and you. And then you had Mark Hamill, not Mark Hamill, God, was Mark Singer, who was in Beastmaster. I love Beastmaster and stuff. I like the fantasy part of the genre too, especially with horror and fantasy. It's a
Mm-hmm.
cool, that's real cool too. And he discovers that when Diana ate that dang gerbil and stuff, she gobbled that son bitch up. I said, "Oh Lord, have mercy!" No. Oh, but it was so good. But we knew it was fake. But it was so scary to see that on TV. It was actually the highest science fiction show on NBC. They spent a lot of money
Mm-hmm.
producing V. And it went off like in I think it was like like the first season or something, maybe one or two seasons of it, and it was gone. But it was so expensive, for NBC to produce it.
Mm-hmm.
And are you a big Star Trek fan?
I've seen Star Trek. I'm not a fan. Like I've okay, I'm a weirdo. I've seen everything except
Don't
for
call me.
Picard, the show
Don't call
Picard.
me.
But
Oh,
I used to watch Star Trek Next Generation, Star Trek Deep Space Nine. I've seen the movies. I've seen the re ones with J.J.
mhm,
Abrams. Yeah,
mhm.
but then are you a fan? That's what the question is. No.
I'm dead.
I
I'm
think
dead ass.
I think
No.
it's just when I hear the word fan, it's like, oh, the characters, you know something, the the story or whatever. I no, I can't say I'm a fan, because if
Yeah.
you ask me a question, I'm probably look at you crazy. But
Mhm.
I could say I watched it. I'm familiar with it. Yes, so yeah. That's as close as I can get to.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with it. There's people that are not fans, people are familiar with it and everything else. You just take it what it is and everything. You know how there's some that's so obsessed with it. Same with Star Wars. I'm like, I enjoy Star Wars, but I'm a big fan of Star Trek. But
Yeah, I've
you
seen
know,
Star Wars.
I'm just like, I mean, cause I'm just like, right now, since I gotten a little bit, mature, and I just look like how the fandom is. I'm just like, it's cool, but okay. That's how I look at it. Like when I was, younger, I'd be like, oh yeah, Star Trek. Blah, blah, blah. Now I'm like, yeah, it's cool, man, but okay.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of. I think I just like sci-fi. Sci-fi is not my number one
Mm-hmm.
subgenre for horror or
Mm-hmm.
anything like that. I think a lot of the movies I like is sci-fi, but it's not my number one genre. It's just I see the movie and it just so happens to be in the sci-fi realm, because I can't really talk specifics of sci-fi. I've ran across people that could just really break down books they related on and
Yeah.
stories, and whatever, but I can't do that. It's like, oh, I really like this film. Let me tell you why. But other
Yeah.
than that, I just, yeah. So, um,
What I was gonna what I was saying about like with the whole Star Trek franchise, with all the canon movies, the shows, et cetera, like Deep Space Nine and Next Generation and so on and so forth, is that First Contact is actually a horror science fiction like film, Star Trek film. It was a horror film for like the Star Trek franchise, especially with Next Generation, and
mhm.
because of the motherfucking Borg. And
Yeah.
the Borg still scares me today. And when I wasn't like really big on Picard, Riker and all them because I was like, man, y'all, I don't know, y'all trying to be just like Kirk and Bones and all them. Until I started, yeah, my mom like watched it a lot. She loved it. So
Mhm.
I was kind of like, like I'm a little ashy, I'm throwing shade at it. So later on, I was like, let me go sit down and watch, Next Generation. And I was like, man, what was I was hating on. I said, but you wasn't ready for it. So I was ready for it later on. And throughout like the seasons and the episodes of SNG is that they created the biggest, baddest and villain in the whole entire universe where you had the Q Continuum scared of the Borg, you had Klingons, you had every species from lower to higher or whatever was terrified of the Borg because they came, they conquered, they assimilate every life form, and resistance is futile. That was the resistance is futile.
Mhm.
And when Jonathan Frakes, who plays Riker on Star Trek, he brought in the Borg, and that was the scariest Star Trek movie I've watched. My heart was just racing seeing Alfred Woodard going through the ship to get away from the board. Girl, that had my heart just jumping out of my chest. Girl, I think I died by 3 times, just watching Star First Contact. I said, golly. And I watched it again a couple of months ago, and it still scares me today. Is because of that fear of an unknown species
Mhm.
not taking no for an answer will assimilate every living being of wiping out all your individuality, your culture, your whole race, and everything to fit in this one box in a hive mind.
Mm.
That is the scariest thing of like the science fiction part of Star Trek, and that you have every living thing in every different corner of like the galaxy is scared of the Borg.
Mhm.
And that was the best villain they introduced within that world, that Star Trek world. And for First Contact to be a horror movie, a Star Trek horror movie, like it just blew me away.
Mhm.
It did. It really did. Same with the thing. Alien. I like Alien. I have Alien, both of them, and I also have Covenant. I love Prometheus. I know people like crapped on Prometheus when it came out, and then like when Covenant came out, they crapped on Covenant and say like, "Well, Prometheus is so great." I'm like, there's a lot of things that Prometheus like missed the point on, but there's a lot of I love Prometheus. I like Covenant and Prometheus. It's both of them, but people just sit there, oh, that was just pointless, and with Prometheus and my son speaking on parenting, how parents like introduce their kids into horror, you have to play it safe. You have to give them horror light. I know I kind of messed up a couple of times, but my kids actually like, you know what, this is fake. They just like, okay, this is fake. I was like, but I'm not gonna show you this, till you get older and stuff. I mean,
Mm.
even my son, he grew up, he watched, Evil Dead, Army of Darkness, Evil Dead 2. Bruce Campbell is his favorite. He wanted to dress up like Bruce Campbell. We actually seen Bruce Campbell when he came into Texas before the pandemic happened, and my son got a little sad because they took the first three rows because he was doing like this game show circuit type of thing,
Mhm.
and the first three rows, and also Bruce Campbell actually talked to me,
Mhm.
and I was trying to answer the question, and I froze, and I
Oh.
had to, and I had the answer, and I like froze. I'm like,
Oh.
scared. I'm like, I can't say anything. Oh my god, I'm freaking out. But
Mhm.
my son just bawled, and at the time, the guy I was dating, um, he'd sit there and talk to him, and he consoled my son. And he kind of and I kind of looked at him. I was like, you know what? He kind of resembles Bruce Campbell a little bit. I was like, maybe I got with him because like subliminally, subconsciously, I got with this guy because he looked similar like Bruce Campbell when he was on Evil Dead One.
It could happen.
I mean, like me and him still talk, and everything. But I was like, Zach, you do resemble a little bit like Bruce Campbell when he was younger. Dang, even down to the hair.
Mhm.
Awesome, boy.
Mhm.
But yeah, my son still loves Bruce Campbell. He still loves Evil Dead, but he's just not into movies like he used to be. He's more into technology, video games, computers, and stuff like that. But my daughter, on the other hand, she still watches horror movies and excuse me,
Mhm.
and lives in Florida, and for both of them to like recognize Raimi's work, even in the Quick and the Dead, they know Raimi off the bat. They see a
Mhm.
movie, it doesn't even have to have Raimi's name or nothing like that. They would instantly recognize that okay, Sam Raimi directed that. Oh yeah, we noticed this. Blah blah blah. Blah. They've
Mhm.
gotten to the point where they started to look at and analyzing things. I think that's pretty neat. But I feel you on that. Parents do need to if they're gonna introduce their kids to horror, you got to go in easy with them. You really do. You have to go in easy with them. And
Mhm.
I mean, and as a parent myself, I mean, you make your mistakes. I have to, but you have to go in easy where they can actually enjoy it. Even when they get older, they can pass it down to their kids. They're gonna
Mhm.
remember, mom
Mhm.
eased me into this.
Okay.
Goodness. Hey, girl, you like, girl, like, girl, you gonna get me jumping up for joy and everything. And I was gonna ask you a question. What horror meant to you? You know, I already answered it. I was like, Lord, she just answered the question before I ever even asked her. But you did. You summed it up really well. What horror is? It's entertainment. It's fun. Yada yada. What you just said.
Mhm.
And it's no wrong or right answer to it because I always ask my guests that same question and I always get a different perspective. And it's like, it's so beautiful to hear different sides to different people of what horror means to them and what is it, how they
Mhm.
look at it. I love asking that question because there's no right or wrong answer. And that's the beauty of it.
Yep.
It really is. It's the beauty of the answer. It's just the beauty of people too. Girl, you done got me so crunk now. Now I'm like, I'm gonna go take a nap. Like I need to calm myself down. I need to go take a nap. So I was like, no, I probably won't. I probably have to do something, run around or something like that. But we're gonna go ahead and like close this out. But thank you so much, Avontres. See, I had to say it like that, Avontres. I know. I probably messed girl. I probably messed it up again.
It's okay.
I get it right. I'm going to this little. See, that is so messed up. I'm so.
It's
I need
fine.
to send
It's
you some.
okay.
I need to no, and you know what? Because people used to, they still mispronounce Keisha. They say Keisha, Keisha. I'm like, But like it's you though, like for real, like it's you because you just have that spark. You have that. You have that, and you to me you already successful. Um, just you may not feel that you're not there, but you already there, and you already shining as it is. Because if you wasn't of what your journey is of what you're doing, guess what? I probably wouldn't even notice you, but I did, and I love the genuine like just nature about you. Your whole persona is just beautiful. It really is.
Oh, thank
And no, I'm
you.
being serious. I fucking love that. I just, I'm a Pisces. I'm just gonna be like it is. I'm just a little, I'm just a little blunt. I'm from the country, I'm a little hood, little bougie with it and everything. A little bit of redneck in me. You know, I fucks with people that are cool and genuine
Mm,
and just real. I just don't go willy nilly. Oh, I'm gonna, get somebody, blah blah blah, whatever. I don't give a crap about that clout shit. I don't give a crap about like all of this stuff. I can like sit there and say, you know what? I can just stop doing all this. But you have so much inspiration because we do the same thing, but you have different aspects with yours. It's the same with mine. Mine is different, but we're still in the horror community. You still do reviews, you do interviews. I just started doing interviews and I didn't even know, about you until I seen you with Tyrone. And I just started doing interviews back in June. And plus I was dealing with my grandmother.
mm.
So it's that like what you put out, girl, you getting that back in 10, 20 fold. I'm just I guess I'm just like on that spiritualness with that spiritualness. But it's just like it's you just you're very genuine. You on this path and it's beautiful. All the bumps, the hills, the mountains and everything else. You're very inspirational. You that you're just very amazing. And I am just honored to have you, you know, as a guest, with the Random Horror Show. I'm still a baby. I'm still crawling with my stuff and everything. But I just take it one day at a time. I do what I do. I stay in my own lane.
Mm,
That's what I do. I just do. I just stay in my own lane, and it's because of a lot of things that happen in my life and a lot of trauma, a lot of death, and things like that of what I've been through. And I was like, you know what? I can let all this stuff hold me back. I can either commit suicide or end up in the loony bin. But I said I want to thrive and I want to live.
that's the way to go. It's the
It
only
is.
way to go.
It really
Because,
is.
I mean, when I remember my niece, she told me, she
Hmm.
said, because I just felt like the world was crashing, and she just said, well, let it crash.
Right.
She said, you're hitting rock bottom. If that's how you feel, if it's rock bottom, the only way is up. There's nothing else.
Come on, Nisi.
So I was sitting there as I was boo-hooing. And it's like there's not nowhere else to go. I mean, if you're under the ground in the dirt, under the rocks, you can only go up. So,
Yes.
but the hardest part is getting up.
Right.
If you could stand up, it doesn't matter if you're on your knees as long as you're up. You got to start somewhere. I mean,
You
and I
do.
and it's true. And on top of that, you got all the bullshit on you, on your
Mm-hmm.
shoulders. That's
Mm-hmm.
weighing you down. Um, but then there's this. This is something that you could take away from this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, let's just say that you are going through the worst time of your life. Like you just everything around you is just falling around, like just crumbling. You're just like you don't know which way is up, whether to whine your ass or scratch your watch. You you don't know what to do. You know, you just sit there and cry. Um, I've been there. I've
Mm-hmm.
been there. There was a moment in my life where I worked so hard for so much, and I thought it was gone. I thought it was gone. Oh, I just sat there with my hands up in the air and just like I lost everything. And
Yeah.
turns out that I actually gained a lot more than what I lost at that moment. And it's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Perspective is is like it's a two-way street. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you could look at it, oh man, that mountain over there is far away.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could look at it as, man, okay, I need to see how far it really is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just your perspective on life changes through time. It changes based on, you know, your past or trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's there. We all are on the same path. It's just how are we going to get there? Most people have privilege to get there. They could get on a
Mm-hmm.
plane and get there. They got a car,
Mm-hmm.
they could get there. Some
Mm-hmm.
of us, if not most of us, have to crawl over there, walk over
Mm-hmm.
there. Some of us have no legs, no arms. We got to scoot over there. Some of us are
Mm-hmm.
blind. We got to feel over there. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
just the way it is, the way it's dealt with you. You have to figure it out. Um, and once you figure it out, the scary part is doing it. And that is scary. Now, anything else could be scary, but getting up and doing it because you're, oh my God, if I fail, what if I fail? Then I'm back to square one or I'm worse off. And I mean, I thought I lost everything a couple of months ago and I cried my eyes out. But when I sat there and thought, okay, okay, I can't sit here. I can't
Mm-hmm.
cry. I cried for like a week or almost 2 weeks. Boo hoo, boo hoo me. And I just said, you know what? I got to get back. I got to get back to doing what I got to do because I'm the one, you know, everybody's living their life, everybody's doing their thing, and I'm the one crying in the corner. I got to get up. I got to get to doing, and I know I'm going to suffer. I know it's going to be hard. I know I'm going to have to deal with the BS, but I did it, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing it. I'm going through it, and I'm getting there because I feel 100%, 1,000% that everything's going to be okay. And you
Mm-hmm.
know what? And at the end, I'm going to meet someone that suffered like me, if not the same or worse. And I'm going to be able to tell them the truth. It fucking sucks, man. Doesn't I'm going to tell them it sucks. I know you're crying. I know you're having those terrible thoughts. I know you want to give up. You probably given up. You just want to end everything. Woe
Mm-hmm.
is me. I've been there. And I'm not going to tell you it's easy. It's not easy. I'm not going to say, oh, if you put your mind to it, you could do it. The fuck it ain't. You could put your mind to it and it just still go wrong. So what you need to do is sit down and say, what is stopping me? What is in the way? And figure it out, not to go through it, not
Mm-hmm.
to, you need to figure out how to deal with it, to work with it, to learn from it, So when you get to it and stand up in front of it, you're not afraid. The fear is what's stopping most of it. And
Yeah.
once you stand there and just say, I'm not afraid of this, it's going to hurt. It's in my face. I want to run, but I can't. I can't run anymore. And then you'll get through that. And then as you're getting through it, you're going to come through a situation like that again. And you're going to say, you know what? I got through that one. I can get through
Mhm.
this one. And you're going to
Mhm.
keep going and it's going to get easier. It will
Mhm.
get easier, but they will never stop. Obstacles will never stop. You just
They don't.
learn how to get through them then each time you get to them. And that is the greatest gift ever. I don't care what it is. You could have been abused, you could have been ARD, you could have been SA, you could be
Mhm.
attacked, you could be
Mhm.
robbed, you could have incest, you could have all these things. Because everything I just said right now happened to me. And I am right here. And believe me, I cry every day. I just wish my dad was here. I wish this was different. But wishing doesn't do anything. You got to get your ass up. You got to put on some clothes, wash your face, brush your teeth, and you got to do it. Because when you die, you're alone. When you fail, you're alone. But when you succeed, you're alone. It's okay because you could say, I did it. I did it. I did it by myself and I didn't need nobody. But if you got a partner and you're succeeding, that's a plus. But if you're by yourself and you succeeded, oh man, it feels like bliss because you don't
Mhm.
have nothing tearing you down.
Mhm.
You can stop. You could be like, oh man, oh, there's a problem. I know how to get through this. There's a problem. Oh, I know how to do this. It's a learn. You learn as you go,
You
and
do.
you're going to be able to teach someone. You're going
Yes.
to be able to teach your son. You're going to be able to teach your friend. You know,
Mhm.
and then they're going to be like, "Woe with me." No, 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 no. Yeah, empathy is number one. I get it. I get your empathy. I get how
Mhm.
you feel. I get this. But you know what? What is your plan? Sit down. Let's talk about a plan. And from that plan, you're going to have to stand up. You're going to cry. You're going to fall on your
Mhm.
ass.
Mhm.
You're going to get depressed. You're going to have
Mhm.
suicidal thoughts. You're going to have all that. But if you're having that, you're not alone. I've been there. Let's do this
Mhm.
together. And that is my plan. All this stuff I'm doing about film, great. But I hope to help someone. If I leave this world, I want someone to say, you know what? Someone I talked to, that Ivotres, man, I was going through my tough time, but I heard her talk and she told me this. And now I'm making my movie. Now I'm writing my script. Now I am not afraid to come out. Now I'm making one of the best film decisions ever in my life. Now I'm helping someone else. That's it. I may not have a monument, I may not have anything, but if I can make one person be proud of who they are, even in their failure, and move on to bigger and better things and use those failures to understand who they are, that would make me a better person. And that is my goal. That's my only goal because I know how it is to have nobody there. That's the truth.
And we are going to end it with that note. And thank you so much, Apple Trees, for that. It has been beautiful just chatting with you. And the shit got deep. The shit got deep. I love it.
Life is deep.
It is, girl. What you talking about? That shit.
Right?
Deeper than
Yeah.
the water. It's deeper than the sea. It's deep.
It
And
is deep.
it is deep. It's fickle. It's funky, but it
Hmm.
can be beautiful.
Yes.
It can. It can be beautiful. But we're gonna wrap it up. And thank you, Ivotres, girl. Thank you so much. And let them know where they can find you at, baby. Shit, you
Well,
got me crunk.
well,
You did. Oh my goodness.
well, you can find me horror movies and beyond. You can actually Google that, and I'm the only thing that comes up. You could
Mm,
find just type in horror movies and beyond. YouTube, Twitter, TikTok. I do most of my movie reviews on TikTok, and my interviews are on Instagram. So it's kind of vice versa. um, yeah, Twitter, Facebook. Yeah, I have website horror movies www.horrormoviesandbeyond.com. Yeah, everything is on there, so you could go on there and links to everything.
that is awesome. And also for those which I say Facebook is for the ancient ones, she is also on Facebook too at Horror Movies and Beyond. And you and I don't know. I said, "Oh, she got it on Facebook." I said, "Boom!" So you're gonna see the Random Horror Show. You're gonna see like that's me. Like yes. But it has been a honor and a pleasure to have you, Patrice.
Thank you, thank you for having me.
You are a beautiful soul. You are a beautiful soul.
I
Don't you
try.
ever
I
forget that,
try.
girl. You know what you said?
My soul been through a lot.
I'm gonna say this to you, like my daughter always tell me. Why you always say you be trying? You just do, cause you just do it. You just cool, mama. You just awesome like that. So I'm getting on you like my daughter be getting on you, getting on me. You are a beautiful soul, and don't forget that. Don't
Thank
ever
you.
forget that. I did. We don't. We have some similarities, and shit. My shit been trampled, fucked up, all kinds of stuff thrown on the ground, beat up and everything. But we still keep on going. But baby, you are a beautiful soul.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you so much. And thank you all for listening to the Random Horror Show. And y'all have a great evening. And thank you, ma'am. Bye.
Bye.